gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
In our hometowns, schools are boats patched with hope, sent back into the water while the dock argues over the price of nails. The leaks aren't dramatic, just constant, and the children inside are told to keep rowing away. Everyone hears the water slapping against the hull, but no one agrees on who should fix it. Teachers become lighthouse keepers with dying bulbs. Guiding ships, they're no longer given fuel to save. Lessons are written on erasing chalk, promises smudged by every budget meeting. The kids learn early how to balance ambition against scarcity. The real wreckage isn't the boat, it's the cargo never delivered. Dreams sink quietly in familiar waters where no rescue ever comes. And one day, the town will ask why nothing great ever returned from the sea it refused to protect. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Felice, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. And of course, follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to when we're up to it. On this episode of the Suffering Podcast, this is a brand new thing for me because I've never had school administrators in here. As a matter of fact, as a kid, I sat in front of folks just like you many, many times telling me how rotten of a human being I was. Tonight, we're going to welcome Gene, Howe, and Bill Koch to talk about the suffering of school funding. Now, you are both from the Jefferson School system, and you are at a critical point in your lives over there. And it's something that we really need to highlight, but thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police, and we certainly don't trust anybody as podcasters, but we do trust the guys over at Toyota of Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car, go to toyotahackensack.com and let them find you a car, but don't forget to tell them the Suffering Podcast sent you. And while you're at it, go over to thesufferingpodcast.com, get yourself some Dented Ace coffee. All proceeds, 100% of the proceeds, go to Dented Development Project to help first responders and their families repair dents caused by suffering. And it's also a great cup of coffee. So, folks, you listen to a couple shows? They don't make it they pipe it into the school yet? Because I'm working on that.
Not yet.
I'm working on that.
Okay.
We were introduced by our friend Matt Millar, and I kind of bribed him a little bit in order to do that, to put over the PA system. So if he hasn't done it, he needs to give me my money back. But we take a social media question. We take a question from our audience each week. This question comes from Muff Stud, which I thought was great. I thought it was a great name. It says, what is a lesson you learned too late, but you still try to pass on? As adults, we seem to get smarter with age. And most of the time we get smarter with age because we've made so many different mistakes, and that's how we learn. So I'm going to leave this both up to you. Who wants to go first? So what is one lesson that you learned too late but still try to pass on? So who would like to go first?
One lesson that I did learn too late that I would still pass on, and I do pass on regularly, is that the big things that happen in your life are big things at that moment. And things will get better. And when you look back, those huge events that you worried so much about might not be so large anymore. So really take a breath and really try to put things in perspective.
You're hired for the advertisement for the Suffering Podcast, because that's what we're all about here. Suffering, actually, those bad events that you talk about actually become milestones in your life that bring you to the next level. You can't start a fire without friction. Mm-hmm. And those bad events in our life, they cause that friction and they get us out of where we need to get out of and move us to the next level. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big believer in that. Bill, what do you think?
I feel like I'm in the same ballpark. It's something I try to talk to our athletes about, and my own children, is just worrying about what you can control. Kind of let go of your ego, worry about what you can control, focus on what you can change, and then everything else kind of falls into place.
That's good advice, especially you want a coach to inspire you, not so much put you down. Like, I spent a long time coaching. You and I probably have a lot in common with that stuff.
Sure.
Because what you learn how to do is you learn how to work with the athletes, and every athlete has to be met where they're at. You can't expect more than an athlete can give you, but you need to know what they're capable of. So for me, when I was a kid, I was half talented. but I had zero work ethic. I always figured when I was tired, I was done, and I didn't give any more effort. As I moved on and as I got older, what I realized is that there's always just a little bit more in the tank. You always have a little bit more to give. You are never done. You just are, you are tired at that point, and tired doesn't mean you get to quit. You know, and I look back on my college football career. Well, I could have maybe done something. Listen, I wasn't the best in the world. I wasn't the greatest in the world, but I could have maybe done something. But I didn't have the same thing that I didn't have what I needed up here in order to get me past my current situation. As I got older and I started realizing, hey, you know what? I do have a little bit more left. Because as you get older, you realize there's no choice. In college, hey, listen, if I don't play today, I'll go back to my dorm. There'll still be a party tonight. There's really no consequences for not playing football. But in life, when you're tired, and parents are real good at this, when you're tired, you always need to give a little bit more because there's people relying on you. There is no quitting. You just can't quit. If you quit, that means others are affected. It's not just a selfish endeavor. So that's the one thing I've learned later on in my years. If I had the same mindset when I was younger, who knows what could have happened? Maybe I could have played at a higher level school, or maybe I could have done better in academics, or maybe I could have been a better person or been a better friend to people. I just didn't try hard enough, you know. And it's a regret, but it's a regret that I learned from. And now, I don't know if you'd be able to stop me once I get my mindset on something. So Muffin Stud, thank you Muff Stud, thank you so much for sending that question, and keep sending in your questions. And the next time you send in a question, when I'm sitting in front of two school administrators, try to get your name a little bit better. You know, these don't embarrass me. But thank you for sending that question, and keep sending in your questions, and we will try to get them on the air. All right. So I've read a lot about Jefferson School System, and as we're talking about the Jefferson School System, one of the things that I see in what's going on currently in the Jefferson School System, and Gene, I'm going to steal this from you. I know you said it, but I'm giving you credit once, and now it's mine. You guys are at the end of the road. You guys are critical. And,
We are.
But there's many school districts that are just at the beginning of the road, which could end up where you are. So while we're talking about Jefferson School System, what I want the audience to understand is how do we mitigate it in the beginning so it doesn't become this big giant problem that is just, it's like listening to an EKG, right? You just hear that and you're waiting for it to flatline.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you, before we get into that, why don't you tell everybody a brief little how you grew up, where you grew up?
Grew up in Mount Olive Township, not too far from here. Played sports my entire life. I wrestled throughout high school. Was fortunate enough to win a sectional title at Mount Olive. Went on to wrestle at Springfield College, where I pursued a degree in education. And then I was hired by Gene at the middle school. Worked there for 10 years, became an administrator at Montville Township High School for 1 year.
At Lazar School?
No, I was at the high school. I was the athletic director there.
Okay.
And then a year later, I was able to come back to Jefferson in my current role as athletic director, where I've been this is my 9th spring.
Are you ready to enhance your skills and provide the best care to those who need it the most? I'm Kevin Donaldson.
I'm Sherry Alsop. Our trauma-informed training is here to help, and we've been traveling across the country delivering this essential need to departments and organizations of every size, shape, and makeup.
We come to you with on-site training so you don't have to worry about travel or scheduling conflicts.
This isn't just a class, it's an interactive experience. You'll learn directly from subject matter experts who teach from a victim's point of view, putting you in the shoes of those who have experienced trauma.
This approach allows you to understand trauma on a deeper level and to better serve the individuals you work with.
We'll guide you through new interview techniques that prioritize a victim-centered approach, ensuring safety and empathy in every conversation.
And for those of you in law enforcement or other fields, our training includes post-credits, giving you the extra added value and recognition for your commitment to professional growth.
We offer references upon request to show just how effective our training can be.
Don't miss the opportunity to improve your understanding of trauma and make a real difference in the lives of those you serve. Get in touch with us today by going to sherryalsop.com and let us bring trauma-informed training to your organization.
Together, we can make a lasting impact.
It's got to be rewarding to grow up playing sports your whole life and then actually do something to give others that same love that you enjoyed. Because there's something about sports. It teaches you life lessons that you just can't learn anywhere else. I'm a firm believer in that. And listen, I wasn't a club guy, I wasn't a band guy, but I'm assuming it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sports for me was where I learned some of the best lessons, and I became family with these people.
Absolutely. It's an extension of the classroom. It's education-based athletics. Our coaches do a great job in teaching those life lessons. And when you talk to our athletes, and even when I was at coaching in other schools, I coached in Boonton, I coached at Mount Olive, coached in Jefferson. Any athlete that you come across, they know those life lessons, and I think those relationships that they build after the 2 o'clock hour are really important and really stand the test of time.
Well, you know, you're with those folks more than you're with your own family.
100%.
You know, that was the thing with football. Like I'm obviously a football guy, and I'm very biased towards football. But the reason for that is I played basketball, baseball, and football. I couldn't tell you 5 people I played basketball and baseball with. I'll tell you every person I played football with from the time I was 7 until I stopped playing when I was 22, because I was with them so much. You know, and I'll still run into them from time to time, and you know, we just pick up where we left off. So, Gene, where'd you grow up?
I grew up down at the Jersey Shore in a small town called Kingsburg,
I knew.
1 square mile.
My sister-in-law's from there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're familiar. I was an athlete. I played tennis all 4 years of high school.
Great workout.
It is.
It's a great workout.
It sure is.
You got to have strong ankles, though, when you stop and, oh, yeah.
Yes, and knees. Takes a toll on your knees as well. But to your point, I was also involved in a lot of extracurricular, co-curricular activities. So it is the same kind of bond that you form when you're in the school play together and you're relying on one another for lines and flowing and the sets and all that kind of stuff. So it is similar. Of course, not the physical aspect of it.
No, but you learn teamwork.
Right.
You absolutely do. You do.
And that's the value. Like athletics in general, the physicality of athletics is like the minute thing that you get out of that. Mm-hmm. It's learning how to work with teams. And I heard this term is an uncoachable athlete is an unemployable adult. And I firmly believe that, because I've seen kids you just can't coach. They're usually the better athletes. They're usually the better athletes are the toughest ones to coach because they think they know it all. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? That kid's going to have a big problem when he goes and gets a job and his boss tells him what to do. And he's just going to, what are you going to throw a tantrum? Are you going to throw your helmet? So like I didn't, when I coach youth football, it wasn't so much about whether I won or lost. It was about what did the kids gain? Mm-hmm. What kind of progress did they make? So what got you both into education?
When I went to college, I was an earth and atmospheric science major with a physical oceanography specialty. And I initially was not going for education. I wanted to work in an estuary and tides and all that kind of stuff. But I went out on a boat for a grant, and I was working with kids on the boat and doing an educational component, and I knew that was it. I was hooked and decided to become an educator.
It's a tough position. Like I felt, I was an English teacher, and I felt very driven in order to do it. And then when I got there and the reality of it, did you start your career as a teacher?
I did.
You did?
I did.
And what were you teaching?
I taught earth science, couple environmental science, and a couple physics classes. Mostly earth science.
That's big business now. That's really big business.
Yeah.
But was it like that when you first became? Because when you're going to college, everybody's very idealistic. I'm going to get there and I'm going to change minds. I'm going to be that rock star teacher. And then you get there, and I still say the best lesson I ever learned was from teaching. I was teaching The Marriage of Heaven and Hell by William Blake. And in The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, there's something called the Proverbs of Hell. And I thought this was just a great lesson for these kids as a homework assignment. Go home and write a piece of advice that you would give to somebody 400 years in the future that you still think would be true. I didn't realize how daunting of a task was, and that was the direction that I gave them. I had 2 kids in the back. One of them said, if you shake more than twice, you're playing with yourself. And the other one said, if you play with it, you'll go blind. Now, they weren't wrong. They followed the directions, right? So that's shame on me. And it taught me, make sure you're very clear with your directions. Mm-hmm. So I had to have him redo it, but I'm 22 years old. I thought it was funny as you know. But what am I going to do? So when you got to be a teacher, what the idealism from college, did it translate?
Teaching is hard.
Yes, it is.
It really, truly is hard. And I don't think that I was prepared for how hard it was going to be. But I love it. I love education.
I'm starting to see teachers, some, please, let me preface that by some, approach their position with some apathy. I recently, and I don't know if this was even a thing, one of my son's teachers grades his papers on ChatGPT. I go, what are you doing? Like, what? So what you're telling me is I don't need you. You know, I can grade my son's paper on ChatGPT myself. You know, and I think a lot of that comes from that idealism that hits reality and they sort of butt heads, you know? But something invigorated you about it. If you had to pick out one thing about teaching that was for you, what was it?
Working with kids and being able to shape who they are, right? It's because it's not at the high school level about content. It's about learning those life lessons. And I was able to be a part of that. Teachers,
when I went to school, used to be able to hit you, though. They did. I went to a Catholic school. They could hit you. They hit me with rulers all the time. Most of the time, I deserved it. So let's be fair. So, Bill, what got you into education?
I really wanted to coach. Yeah. I mean, athletics played a major part in my life, but I also had great teachers along the way. Those great teachers also coached, right? So I saw some familiarity and a lot of parallels with that. I went to Springfield College, undecided, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to kind of get into education, not certain what part. Decided to go down the phys ed road, which was great, tied in athletics, and I liked the science behind it, and I was able to coach. So again, I think it was inspiration from the teachers that I had, blessed in that aspect, and then they also coached. So I had some great mentors along the way. And I wanted to kind of give back.
So I'm going to ask you both a question because you're both educators and something or somebody inspired you. Most of the time it's somebody. And everybody has that one teacher from their past. That one teacher who you remember, you still remember their name, you still remember the lessons they taught you, and something sparked that interest. Do you guys remember what your teachers are? One or two?
I have two specifically that I can remember by name. Absolutely.
Do you want to mention their names? Just give hey, listen, this is a good thing. You're not telling them, hey, he was a piece of garbage.
No, Mike Sickles, he was one of my phys ed teachers in elementary school at Sand Shore Road. And then in the middle school was Mr. O. Mr. Ottavini was a history teacher and a softball coach. One of the Mount Olive softball field is actually named after him. Fantastic guy. But I remember going through school and when I think back, I kind of lived below the radar a little bit. Stayed out of trouble, but those two guys really had a positive impact on my education.
Jean?
I think can I name three?
Sure.
Okay. So Molly Folks, who was a phys ed teacher, she was also my tennis coach for a couple of years. She just had a very positive attitude and just was able to develop a great rapport with her students. Jim Lazier, who I had for physical science and chemistry. He really sparked my interest in science and kept it going. And Alice Kumanoff, who I had for German. And she was very inspiring because she had fled a communist country and came to the U.S. and started off from nothing. And her and her family were very successful and just caring people.
I have two of them, and the first name is Igor Gorbenchikov. He was my phys ed teacher. He escaped communist Russia in a garbage can, went through Japan and came over here. Him and his wife did the same because they were Russian Jews, and they weren't very popular in the area, especially during World War II. So came over here, but I remember this guy. He had a way of talking to people, and it was he loved to see athletic achievement. Like and even if you weren't the most gifted athlete, he would just champion the fact that you gave it your all. And I love that about him. And the second one was Mrs. Collins. She was an English teacher because her passion for English is what inspired me to be an English teacher. Her passion for literature her passion for Shakespeare, which is one of my concentrations in college. I know I look like an idiot. I look like a moron, but I actually enjoyed it and I understood it more than anything else. We all have those teachers to inspire. So, but there was a lot of bad ones. Okay. So when I became a teacher, I wanted to be that teacher that I needed, because in those classes that I enjoyed the teachers, I always behaved. I always did well in. And then there was the other ones, and I can name a dozen teachers who got tortured by me because they were awful teachers. And I was just bored, and I wasn't inspired. I didn't want to do good for goodness sake. I wanted to cause mayhem. I wanted to cause disruption. I was that kid that, probably should have gone to a special school. But it's funny how those teachers who inspired us, you somehow do better in those classes. Mm-hmm. So, that's refreshing to hear, and it's something that I always am interested in. But we are here to talk about a really, really bad issue in Jefferson School. And NewJersey.com just came out with an article about it. And we had connected before then, mm-hmm. and you told me about all this stuff. So Jefferson's kind of a weird area when it comes to the funding, because you guys fall under the Highlands Act, and there's certain parts of your town that cannot be developed, so that's less ratables and less income coming in.
Right.
But what is the current situation right now? Tell everybody the current situation in Jefferson schools.
So because of a number of factors, the Highlands Act, right, you had said that it really suppresses the enrollment. So our enrollment has been declining over the years. So the way that the funding formula in New Jersey works is it's based on enrollment. So our state aid has decreased because we have less students over the years. It was a disproportional cut due to a Senate bill that had passed. It's called S2. We lost 29% of our enrollment over a period of time, yet our state aid was cut 60%, so almost double. I'm not really sure why that happened, why it's not proportionate.
60%?
Yeah, so if our enrollment declined 29%, you would think that our state aid would be cut approximately 29%, but that's not what happened.
Instead of the state trying to figure out why is your enrollment down? And listen, part of it is because of these private schools. They're recruiting, and I don't really like that idea of, you got a good athlete, well, you lose the good athlete to the football schools or baseball schools or something like that. Mm-hmm. But that's extreme.
Right. So Jefferson is a wonderful community, and when your children leave, a lot of people move to a smaller house or move to a different part of the country. The empty nesters, but that's not happening in Jefferson. There's so many opportunities and great things going on. It's a beautiful area. A lot of things with the rec department and senior centers. So people are aging in place and not leaving Jefferson. So they're not having children. And because of the Highlands Act and the inability to build more housing, our enrollment's just going down.
So you're limited on that, on your COA development, which is your affordable housing. But affordable housing comes with, it's only 20%. So you're getting another 80% of other people coming in. There's just no place to build them, correct?
Correct. So 88% of Jefferson is protected by the Highlands Act.
Wow. And so the Highlands Act, and that was done under Christie?
It was back in 2004.
That's it.
So I'm not sure if
maybe
it was
Corzine. It was either Corzine or Christie.
It's a great piece of legislation. I'm not against the Highlands Act. It's protecting the water for a large portion of New Jersey.
That's great. You have a lot of water.
We do.
But
we do.
But you're looking to have some serious budget cuts.
We are. So one of the things we've been asking for over the years is Highlands Impact Aid, that Jefferson and other Highlands communities are taking care of the water and being good stewards of the water and the environment, keeping recreational areas pristine and preserved. We're watching out for you. You need to watch out for us and help us with our school funding.
Well, on the paper, it's a good thing, but then
Sure.
There's the practicality of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what are some of the potential cuts coming your way?
So we're short $4.8 million. That's our estimate. We don't get state aid figures until
I can write
probably-
you a check for that.
Okay.
Like today?
Okay.
Okay.
And then we can just
na-
call it off and
Name a
Write it
wing.
off.
Name a wing after me.
Just write it off.
Yeah.
there you go.
Name the detention hall after me. That's
Okay.
what you want to do.
Fair enough. We're estimating a $4.8 million deficit for next year. We won't know for sure until we get our state aid, but that's our best estimate as of right now. In order to bridge that gap, we would need to eliminate courtesy busing. So any students in K to 8 that live within 2 miles of their school would have to walk, and any students in the high school that live 2.5 miles away from the school would have to walk. Jefferson is not a walking community. There's
Too many hills.
There's pockets of it. We don't have sidewalks. There's a lot of hills. There's a lot of curvy roads. So it's just really not feasible for that to happen. We're looking at eliminating our basic skills program. So students who might need some extra help in math or English, we won't be able to give them very tailored, specific, individualized assistance in those two subjects. Gifted and talented programs for our accelerated students. They won't have those programs. We are looking at reduction of co-curricular activities at the high school, eliminating all after-school clubs and activities in K to 8, and looking at eliminating our athletics program.
Ooh. You're giving these kids 2 strikes. You're giving them 3 strikes.
We are.
You know,
So, and I just want to say, this is what we would have to do if there isn't some kind of relief, and if we needed to make the budget work. These are not recommended cuts. These are not good for kids.
you're taking away the high school and grammar school or grade school experience for these kids. You know what? I look back. I look back at the fun things that I did in school, and it was an experience. My kids obviously don't like school. Well, I didn't like school when I was there either, but I look back and I'm like, God, I wish I was in school because we did this, and this, and it was wonderful. But so in my opening, I say a line, it's the boat's leaking, but everybody's complaining about the cost of nails. There's funding for this stuff. There is funding. There's plenty of money. It's just not in Jefferson or going where it's supposed to go. Bill, how long have you been athletic director?
This is my 9th spring.
Your 9th spring. And you've seen kids thrive under athletics who maybe wouldn't do that. Would that be fair to say?
Very fair.
Okay, so cutting athletics, what do you think, what does that world look like?
It's one you really can't imagine. Sitting in my seat watching the what our coaches do for our kids, what our kids do for our school and for our community and for our rec programs. It's really just not one that's feasible. It's not one that's sustainable. And it really boils down to a massive detriment to the community as a whole.
We're going to lose people in the community.
100%. So I live in Jefferson. I live very close to the high school. My kids are involved in rec sports. I'm involved with the Recreation Association. It'd be devastating, absolutely devastating. I mean, talk about your property value.
Kids are going to start getting in trouble too.
Kids are gonna have a lot of time, and then more kids would vacate, right? So who's coming into Jefferson? Who's going to want to buy your house? If you can afford it, are you going to go to a private school? How you getting there? How you paying for it? And are those the avenues that you really want to explore? But
it's really
devastating.
This is really a domino effect.
100%.
I mean, if you look, so during football season, I was good just because if I wasn't good, I wasn't going to get a chance to play football. Well, so I was, okay, all right, whatever works. But you have a kid who is an athlete and has the ability to maybe go somewhere better than their grades dictate them going. Well, that's what athletics does. That's what extracurricular activities. So somebody is good at band. I know band is a big one. You know, somebody's good at band. Well, guess what? They're going to be able to maybe go to a college that's a little bit better than their academics will allow them to go because they're so good. You're really cutting the legs out of there. So what is the community saying about this stuff? Like what is the I'm sure you get feedback from parents all the time. What is their take on all this stuff?
The community is very supportive. We have a number of parents that are really advocating for change and getting the word out about where we are, and asking for help. So the community is rallying behind us.
Maybe we should buy some lottery tickets.
Yeah.
Anything. At this
Yeah.
point, you got to throw up a Hail Mary.
It's all hands on deck. I would agree with what Gene says, and the community has really rallied. Our students, even from youth on up, they've rallied behind it, and it's all hands on deck and moving in one direction, which is great. And that's rare to see. Usually, it's a lot of blame to the school district, and that's not the case. It is truly a Falcon family. What we are moving forward.
You know, being the captain of the ship, being the boss, this has got to weigh on you quite heavily, Gene.
It does.
Yeah. You probably had some sleepless nights over this stuff.
Many. I've been in Jefferson a long time, 21 years, and a lot of the things that are on the list to get cut or reduce, I helped build. And it's sad because we have an amazing group of students, all the way from 3-year-olds to 21-year-olds. Our staff is amazing. We have great schools and we accomplish a lot. And all of that, unfortunately, is at risk.
How did you get here? You know, that's the, we know about the Highlands Act and all stuff, but this is not an event. This seems like more of a progression. You know, what was the first signs that this was going south?
So back when the funding formula was first enacted, the districts, they realized that districts were going to lose a lot of money. And there was a hold harmless provision put in place. And our state aid stayed stable. So wherever it was at the time, that's where it stayed for years. But unlike Jefferson, with the enrollment declining, there were other districts where enrollment was increasing, and they weren't getting any more state aid. So they were looking at cutting basic skills, gifted and talented, courtesy busing, athletics. That was them years ago.
What year? How long ago did they propose that?
This was right before S2, Senate Bill 2 was adopted by the Senate. So what happened is S2 sought to kind of reshuffle the funding pot of money. So the districts that saw an increase in enrollment that were underfunded, they would get more money, and the districts that the enrollment declined, they would get less money in their state aid. But the unintended consequence is that now the districts that lost money due to S2 are in the same position that the other districts were initially before S2 was passed. So that's one piece of this. Another is not just specific to Jefferson, but the area up in northwestern New Jersey with the Highlands Act, restricted building. There's a number of school districts or communities that are just the same position we are.
The battles we fight are hard and taxing on the soul. Fighting a battle that seems impossible to win. The stressful calls that give us wounds that cannot be seen.
These moments leave scars. They leave dents. Sometimes we just need to sit and talk over coffee.
Finding a moment of peace in the comfort of decompression with those whom you share difficulties. Sharing moments with those who are the only ones who understand. Our peace comes in the quiet moments we can share with our brothers and sisters.
It's just a moment to sit, listen, and let it out. We may be dented, but we are not broken. The Suffering Podcasts. Dented Ace Coffee was created to bring the peace to the protectors. Dented Ace Coffee is a tribute to my brother Mike Felice and all the others who couldn't find their peace. 100% of the proceeds will go directly to Dented Development Project so that we can begin to repair the dents caused by suffering in veterans, first responders, and their families. The Suffering Podcasts, Dented Ace Coffee. Get yours today by visiting thesufferingpodcast.com.
There's others that are 100% protected. There's no more development. So that's another factor. The funding formula is flawed because, for example, in Jefferson, because of the Highlands Act, there's not a lot of real estate for sale, which drives up the home values, which there's a factor in the funding formula called the wealth and income factor. So it takes a look at the community's ability to pay for their share of education. So if the property values go up, then the funding formula thinks, okay, they have a greater ability to pay for education, but that's not the case. Just because your home value goes up, you don't realize that wealth increase until you sell your home.
In Parsippany, we had that. Our home values are sky high, okay? But it doesn't mean I have, like, I can't sell my home and go buy another home in Parsippany because I can't afford it.
Correct.
You know, I could afford it, my house, when I bought it. That was what you do.
Right.
But just because it doesn't mean I got more money in my pocket.
Correct. Another piece to this is that school districts can only increase their tax levy for the municipality by 2%. Our cost of doing business, so increases in salary, increases in healthcare, utilities, insurance for property insurance, workers' comp insurance, they all went up about 28%. So it's that difference that, the road that we're all on, eventually everyone is going to be at this fiscal cliff that Jefferson is at, because you can't have the cost of doing business go up 28% and you can only increase the tax levy by 2%.
So, Bill, you're looking at all this stuff going on, and your programs are in jeopardy. It's got to break your heart.
Absolutely.
I mean, what's life like for you when you go home? Is this constantly running through your head?
It is. Like I said, my kids are young. They're growing up playing sports. My son has a wrestling match tonight, and they ask me. So I get it at home. Constantly getting texts from people that live in town that have kids coming up through the program, and I spend a lot of time with our athletes. I'm fortunate enough where I could watch practice. I get to have some relationships with our kids, and I watch a lot of contests, a lot of success. Watch the failures, and it's tough. And they're constantly asking because they're worried.
What support do you, from your position, can you give Gene? Like, what's your role in trying to figure something out? Everybody's thinking out of the box at this point.
Yeah, and like I said, with our community, I think our admin team is doing a fantastic job collaborating and kind of listening to all opinions, and exploring resources. Today we had Big State Sports come in, do a video segment with 10 of our athletes, our junior athletes from a variety of sports. So the sports world is on our side as well. But like I said, our collaboration from the top down has been solid from internally. And I think that's reflective with the support we're getting from the community.
So if the state doesn't come in, well, before I get there, so Department of Education is being taken away federally. Does that have any impact on this stuff?
No.
No,
it's really just the state of New Jersey.
So it's at the state level.
Yes.
And so the problem is you probably don't have a lot of high level politicians in your community, because if you did, things might be different.
I do have to say, Senator Bucco, Assemblywoman Dunn, and Assemblywoman Sweeney, and Assemblyman Barranco, who was the assemblyman in the district up until recently, they have been super supportive. They understand where we are. They are really looking to help.
Moving forward, let's say you stave it off this year. So how you're going to be in the same problem next year, same situation next year. So it's an ongoing thing. So something needs to be fixed so it's more of a permanent solution. Otherwise you're just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Well, we do need a Band-Aid. We need a Band-Aid for next school year. Yes, we need a very large Band-Aid for next school year. And then we also need systemic change.
Right. So who's fighting for that systemic change?
We are.
You're your own advocates.
We've been fighting since 2019. This has been a long time that we've been saying that we're headed toward this cliff. and here we are. We're falling off of it. So our Board of Education is supportive. The mayor, the town council, the community, the staff, the students, we're all in this together.
I'm just trying to think of, like, I'm sitting here across from both of you, hearing this horror story. I have 2 kids in the school system right now, and I'm trying to put myself in the position of Jefferson. If they were going to Jefferson schools, they're both athletes, they both play sports, they both are involved in extracurricular activities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, what would I do? What would I do? So New Jersey, the one thing about New Jersey is New Jersey has a lot of redundant services. All right. So you go anywhere else in the country, they have a regional fire department. Their garbage gets picked up, or the garbage gets picked up maybe once. Most of the time, they got to go drop it off. They have a county police department or sheriff's department or something like that, and they have a regional school. So is that where New Jersey is moving, where it's going to be more regional services?
I'm not really sure. There is legislation proposed to make that happen. Jefferson's 42 square miles, so we can't really regionalize much more than we already are. So to pull in either students from other towns or to send our students to other towns, it's just really not feasible.
Because then there's a lot of logistics involved, and that stuff doesn't happen overnight. So I'm just trying to think what's the answer to all of this stuff, because here's the big thing. It's, yeah, you both are going to be affected by it, but let's think about the the biggest impact, and that's the impact of the students. You're there for the students. You love teaching. Well, the people who are going to get hurt the most are the people who are innocent victims in all this stuff. You want to talk about true innocent victims. You know, what do you think school's going to look like without these programs?
So, you talk about the well-rounded child and preparing our students to be citizens outside of school and when they graduate and when they leave our walls, but that's really all in jeopardy. And I honestly, I can't even conceptualize it, because
Neither can I.
There aren't schools, right, that don't have an athletics program to some extent, or clubs and activities, or basic skills programs, safe passages to and from school. It's just...
Aren't we supposed to work our butts off as adults so the kids have a little bit better, have something a little bit extra? And, I can't imagine somebody's advocating for cutting your funding, right?
No.
So you would have 100% support for the school to be funded. Think about all the different political issues and all the different programs throughout the country that get funded fully, right? They get funded fully. You always have your pros and cons, whether it's military, government, or federal government, whatever it may be. There's always somebody who will step up and say, no, we don't need this. This isn't a good thing. And then there's the other side that says, nope, this is essential. We need this stuff, and they get funded. Where you're in a situation where you have 100% support. Everybody's for it. Nobody thinks that this stuff should be cut. I don't know anybody that's going to do it. Yet you're still having a difficult time. There's something fundamentally wrong with that. I've never seen issues that have 100% support. And this is obviously one of them.
To make any of those cuts, it's bad for kids.
So what are some of the answers? Like, there's obviously going to have to be a couple lean years. So have you identified certain things that are like, okay, this one we can work with a little bit. We'll figure that one out, versus the essentials versus the non-essentials. Maybe, I don't know, school lunch program or something like that. Okay, that stinks that we have to do it, but maybe in order to save that, so something's going to have to be sacrificed. Have you identified those things that are going to have to be sacrificed?
We have already identified them, and we've already sacrificed them.
You've already done it.
We have already done it. So in my time in Jefferson, we've closed 3 schools.
Holy cow. What's your class size?
Yeah. It's about 24.
That's not so bad.
It isn't, but if we don't get funding, our class sizes are going to go above 33 in K to 8. I can't imagine the primary grades having class sizes of 33 students in them.
And then what's going to happen is a lot of schools moving cattle through anyway. You can't You can't speed up for the ones who need it, and you can't slow down for the one. You just sort of got to keep pushing them through and corralling them. And with a class size that big, everybody says, well, why is a class size got to be 24? Because when you're standing in front of a classroom of 30 people and there's one person just not getting it, you can't stop a whole class for that one person. There's no individual treatment that you can give to that one person. There's just not enough time. There's not enough hours in the day.
With a class size that large,
Yeah,
it's very difficult.
So you're going to get a lot of kids that are left behind and pushed through the school system.
Mm-hmm.
I've known people like this who got pushed through large school systems because they were nice people. They were nice. They were smiled. Everybody liked them, and they become adults, and you watch. Well, they didn't really do them any justice because now they're deficient in this or they're deficient in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to people with the smaller classes, and they seem much better, well-rounded people and able to adjust to certain things like that.
Sure.
So this is going to have a ripple effect that's going to end up being a tsunami.
Correct.
How do we fix this? Where do we got to get to in order to fix this?
I wish I had the answers. I mean, I've been asking for Highlands Impact Aid since 2019. We need money. We're $4.8 million short now. But when you look at it over the length of the Highlands Act and the time that it's had an impact, 22 years, 4.8 million divided by 22 is not that large. So in addition to closing 3 buildings, we've had to pay to participate. So students that participate in athletics or clubs and activities have to pay a participation fee. We've already reduced 100 staff positions.
Well, can I ask you a question? What's your tax? What do they call it? Like every town has a percentage of how many people pay their taxes. I can't remember what it's called. Like say my town has 90% of the people pay their taxes, and there's 10% that are delinquent. They don't pay their property taxes. I would imagine that you're pretty high up there on the amount of people. So you're already pulling enough from the community is what I'm saying. Do you know what that number is of how many tax? I think it's receivable taxes or something like that.
I don't know.
Because I'm going to guess it's probably fairly high. You got some inner cities that are as low as 30. I know that.
Okay.
But in a town like that, that's fairly affluent,
Mm-hmm.
well-to-do, you figure, okay, well, they're fine. They don't need anything. Well, no, they're on a morphine drip right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough situation. Now, what about, like, you've already cut 100 staff, you said?
Correct. Teachers, custodians, support staff, secretaries, administrators, teachers.
And if this doesn't happen, how many of those jobs are going to be gone?
Additional positions?
Yeah.
I think about 13 to 15.
13 to 15 positions.
Mm-hmm.
So you have larger class size, less people to do it. This is just a bad situation. There's like no upside. It's not like that people's taxes are going to go down.
No.
Your property taxes aren't going down.
No.
That's correct.
I want to throw this question out there. If you had a crystal ball, both of you, if you had a crystal ball, how does this go? How do we fix this long term? Not just this year, long term, and try to make some sustainability in this whole school budget.
So long term, we need to really take a look at the funding formula and realize that one size does not fit all. There needs to be some categorical aid for districts like Jefferson that are impacted by external factors. So there's the Highlands Act in northern New Jersey, Highlands Act in southern New Jersey, a lot of communities protected by watershed. So we need help in that area, the funding formula. So really take a look at that, increase the amount that the state gives us per pupil. The cost of educating a student has gone up exponentially, but yet our state aid has not gone up to match that. There's a lot more that we are required to do for students. We're in a different time than we were back when the funding formula was crafted. So just putting more money into that pot would also go a long way.
Bill, I'm gonna pose that one to you.
we are doing everything we can. Crystal ball wise, it has to come from the top down. The government does have to service its constituents and understand the problems and the realities that we are all going through, and that several of our neighboring towns will be in. So it has to come from the state.
What about private donors? Are you able to take stuff from private donors?
So, Bill, maybe if you can talk about that, because you've done a great job at soliciting for donations and getting our scoreboard.
It sounds.
Yeah,
It doesn't sound good when you say soliciting. It sounds dirty to me when you say soliciting.
Yeah, I mean, we have had some very generous sponsors and different programs that have allocated dollars for things in athletics and other donations, and many of them are community members as well. But 4.8 is a big nut to crack, and getting that from a group of people is possible. But again, it's, as you noted before, that's a Band-Aid. What are we going to do moving forward, right? So could we find a very generous donor for that amount? It's possible.
Mark Zuckerberg did it for nowhere. Yeah,
but it's possible. But again,
there's problems with that.
What are we doing moving forward?
Right.
So there has to be real change that affects our real students.
Right. And fortunately, we have the athletic boosters that help.
Well, that's everybody thinks that.
Right.
They're like, well, hey, we buy those ads in the back of the program, and I throw this Buffalo Wild Wings to throw this sponsor out there, and everybody thinks, okay, oh, that's good, that'll take care of it. No, it's just so minute.
It is, but so we have the boosters for athletics. We have our PTAs, our Ed Foundation. They really, over the last several years, have come together to really pitch in where they can.
Well, this 100% support that you got should do something, but I actually have an idea, which I'm going to talk to you about afterwards. And with the notoriety that, this is a known issue. Like I said, it just came out in NJ.com. This is a known issue. Has anybody reached out to you, made contact, or are they being skeptical or just sort of standoffish?
Well, not to me, but it's funny because we have gotten a lot of, my coaches are going out to various venues in different counties, and people are talking about it. So there is a lot of traction, but they all think it's smoke and mirrors. And they're like, well, what's really going on? I'm like, that is what's really going on. It's not a scare tactic. These things are the reality that we're dealing with. And real change has to happen.
That happens where you'll have somebody within the school embezzling money. That, I think it happened in Mount Olive, right?
Can't confirm nor deny that.
Yeah, well, so the reason
know.
I know that is Mount Olive is got the dome at their high school.
Yes.
Because that's where they play the Junior League football championship every year, because it's a beautiful stadium. And I will tell the story as I know it. They still, because of the dome, that was like that. So that's a forward-thinking area, right? Because that dome actually makes money. It paid for itself in like 4 or 5 years. It's crazy. But they had a BA or something, or somebody was stealing money, and they stole like $60,000, and they were still fine. They're still fine. Because that's a forward-thinking, that's a great example, because that's a forward-thinking area where they're like, okay, let's spend this money now, and then our rate of return where we can build something sustainable. That dome at Mount Olive High School is, I was talking to one of the security guards, it's rented out 24 hours a day. You can't get a time on there. Yep. What a great thing to do. It takes some hardship in the beginning. So some difficult decisions are going to have to be made.
That's common for us. They're like, well, just build a bubble. I'm like, okay, we'll just build a bubble. And it's funny because I've done a lot of research to try to get turf on a portion of our fields for multi-purpose, right? More use out of it. But we have wetlands, and then we have highlands. So we can't. So even if we wanted to put turf down where an existing field is, we're running into highlands and wetlands that are going to prohibit us from doing that, even if we could.
I know a guy who that's what he does. I actually had him in here. He builds professional fields, and I've been there. My current job now, where I will oversee those projects. I've seen those turf fields. People don't realize it's not just laying turf down. You got to build underwater detention systems. You got to build, because those fields. What people don't realize is those fields are able to take in like I think it's like 3 foot of water an hour or something like that, and filter it back into the system. But I've also seen those things built not properly, and I've actually watched this during these heavy storms where the field will shift. The whole field will move. It's real scary. So it's a big investment, but it has to be done right. Correct. If you do it right, you could have that situation where it's making money. So those are the when I say that stuff, those are the strategic things that would build longevity if they're done properly.
Right.
You know, I got to tell you, you folks are in a really, really desperate place. And if somebody was so inclined to help the Jefferson school system through advocacy or through funding or through private funding, whatever it may be, how would they be able to get in touch with both of you?
www.jefftwp.org.
jefftwp.org.
And that is where you can find all the Highlands information and everything that's going on.
You have it all listed in there.
We do. We have a page, Falcons for Fair Funding, that outlines all of our advocacy efforts, and they can certainly get in touch with us to help out.
So somebody's got to step in, right? Somebody's got to step in, either somebody with a high name or somebody that's got funding or access to change the way the system is done, because if this goes on too much longer, the things that are going to be lost are going to be irreplaceable, and they're going to do nothing but damage to the students. All right. And I thank you very much for coming in here, because I know this is a tough topic to talk about. Somebody's got to talk about it. Somebody's got to talk about it. When I heard school superintendents coming in here, I'm like, ooh, I got to brush up on my English. You're currently involved in this suffering. I end every show the same way because I believe that suffering is the greatest teacher. And Jefferson School System, as in general, and both of you intimately involved in the administration of the Jefferson School System, are going through a fair amount of suffering. But suffering is the best teacher that we have. There is no greater instructor in the world than suffering. So you're going through this currently right now. Can you pull one lesson out of it? Can you pull one lesson out of this suffering that the Jefferson School System is dealing with through school funding?
I think a lesson from me personally, can I talk about how it
absolutely
impact me personally, is if you believe in something, never give up on it. And I've been fighting this fight since 2019, and I will keep advocating for our students and our staff and our school system. You just have to keep going.
Bill, what do you think it's taught you?
Honestly, it's what a community can do. It's a fight that's ongoing, but to see how people can really pull together behind an issue for the greater good, that's to do more than work for yourself, is amazing. Like I said, the community that's been involved, our students, but just to watch it pull together so quickly because they know what's at stake.
There's always beauty that comes out of ashes, always, and hopefully this whole thing doesn't burn down. Hopefully the beauty can be revealed without having to burn the whole thing down. But I commend both of you for fighting this fight, because I'm going to be honest with you. You could just let it go. And you could just say, okay, well, there's not much we can do about it. We're kind of hamstringed on this stuff, but you chose to stand up and speak out, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot. So I thank you very much for coming in. I thank you both. And, maybe there's something that can be done here.
Well, thank you for bringing awareness to our fight.
Thanks for the opportunity. Much appreciated.
Yeah,
let's get this done. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, the suffering of school funding with Gene, Howe, and Bill Koch. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Activities are an extension of the classroom. Money doesn't always go where it's needed. Budget restrictions hurt kids. 100% support should equal success. But most importantly, if you believe in something, never give up. And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, OnlyFans. I'm just kidding. There's school people here, so there's no OnlyFans. It's just a joke. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson, and of course, follow The Suffering Podcast at The Suffering Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.